It was October 13th, 1997, when the 523rd chapter of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure released, originally called Who Will Get on the Boat. In this chapter, Hirohiko Araki decided to do something very, very shocking to many readers and get rid of one of the main characters of Part 5, Panikata Fugo, writing him out of the story until the epilogue of the part, making a lot of fans of Fugo feel unsatisfied with his character arc, which would be ramified with the release of Purple Haze Feedback, making Fugo a lot more of a fan favorite than ever before in Part 5. But why exactly was Fugo written out of the story? It turns out that Araki wanted to have a traitor arc in Part 5, but he decided to change his mind, and here's why. Originally, I was thinking of a story where Fugo betrays Giorno and his friends. The Bible has a similar account involving a traitor named Judas, and that's what I was trying to do. But I kinda hated it. I had this feeling that if I depicted a betrayal, the story would become too dark, so I had Fugo leave right away through a difference of opinion. As an alternative, I asked the authors of the novel to depict Fugo right after he left. He betrays them, but is actually helping Giorno and the others. So it's sort of like a Gaiden or side story. And although Araki thought it was too dark to write at the time, which was at this point over 25 years ago, with JoJo becoming more and more dark, especially through its serialization in Ultra Jump, I can absolutely see the possibility of a betrayal happening in JoJo lands. And while I wasn't completely sold on Usagi being the traitor at the start, because of the recent development last chapter, I'm more willing to actually say that this character is gonna be the traitor. But just in case you're not familiar with this theory at all, I'm going to give you a rundown on who Usagi is, how he was introduced into the story, his stand, and a lot of other evidence that makes people believe that he is the traitor over really any other character in the story. Usagi is introduced into the story in Chapter 1, but instead of being introduced with a flashy narration or a character card of some sort, he's just introduced in the background of a shot that's focused on Jodio, and then becomes a sort of antagonistic, minor figure as he tries to attack Jodio on the bus to school. We then get the reveal that Usagi is a bit of a fiend and is asking Jodio for some drugs, and then after this, when they get to the school, we have this whole little scene where Usagi is sort of guided around the school to find out what he's looking for, which actually seems to shock him very, very much. But after Usagi gets this fixed, he manages to go into school, and we cut back to Jodio, who is then seen interacting with the principal of the school. So it seems almost like a perfect little coincidence that they managed to not cross each other's path, but in reality they're actually working together the entire time. This principal is Miss Meryl May, and it turns out she is actually a drug dealer for her side hustle. And since she's the boss of our heroes, she's the one that presents the first big MacGuffin into the story and introduces a new member to the main cast. But in reality, it's just the guy that they sold drugs to literally a few pages ago. In a chapter filled with twists, Usagi becoming a member of the main cast was just another one. And lots of people gravitated to this character immediately, naming him Hot Dog Kun, him becoming sort of a meme online, and with him becoming a clear fan favorite character in little to no screen time at all. And a lot of people were super excited for this guy and had their eyes on him since the first chapter. So it makes a lot of sense that a lot of people would start to speculate how important this character truly is. He's the odd man out after all, and all of our other heroes have their stands introduced. What ability is this guy gonna have, and what will it add to the story? Will it possibly even clue us in on their true intentions? And is there possibly a connection between Meryl May and Usagi? She was introduced on the page that just followed his exit into the story seemingly. Now she's bringing him back into the story. A lot of people think there is some connection there, and I can honestly see why. Now, in Chapter 2, we get two pretty big reveals about Usagi. Well, really three. First, his name. Secondly, that he's a bit of a slacker and a wild card character, which could add for some comedic effect. Although this is to the dismay of our other heroes who considered him a druggie who's super wired up all the time, and they hate that. And third, and most importantly, we actually get Usagi's stand and its name. The Mate Kudasai, which means wait please in Japanese, is actually a stand that focuses on deception, but only deception after following another person's orders. Now, Usagi is able to create a duplicate of any object that is able to make something that is wrong, incorrect, or something that's just off when compared to the normal. This raises a lot of questions for me. How powerful is this stand? If we were to use it on an object that is not a camera, what would happen? I think this stand is incredibly fascinating and is by far my favorite one from part 9 so far because of how just absurdly unique it is and how strange I think it could be in the long run. Now let's get into the name and origin. As I said, it means wait please, which might be the most normal JoJo stand name like actually ever. Like you could even drop it in a sentence like wait please, could you just subscribe to this channel? For those of you who know, part 9 is seemingly a part 5 parallel, and part 5's main villain had to stand King Crimson, and the Mate Kudasai is a song by King Crimson. Personally, this was all there was to me for this theory. It was very shocking that a part that is seemingly a parallel to part 5 has a person with a stand that is the exact same homage as the main villain of part 5. But this is Usagi, you know, like Mr. Hot Dog, the funny guy, the comic relief guy. He's just like Mista or Narancia or something like that. There's no way he could be some type of, you know, main villain level character. That would be insane. I mean, it's not like part 5 potentially had a traitor plot line with Fugo, and part 5 didn't have a massive theme of deception for the main villain involving literally shapeshifting. It is kind of strange that the Mate Kudasai King Crimson reference, the first thing it ever does is allow someone to shapeshift. You know, that it can't be possible. Now we're gonna skip this entire like arc with Rohan because it's awesome, but it doesn't really relate to the theory that much, except for the idea that Usagi is actually quite smart. He's obviously deceptive and knows how to con people out of money, but he's actually smart. That's another angle to it, so that is pretty interesting. As the group escapes Rohan and they're chased by a bunch of cats, yes, JoJo is weird, Usagi comes out with a manuscript of one of Rohan's. Jodio is a huge Rohan fan, and specifically shows Jodio that he took this from Rohan. Jodio obviously gets jealous. It could obviously lead to Usagi and Jodio having some sort of dynamic. Usagi tries to get closer to Jodio to get information out of him and get closer to him, so we don't feel he's a traitor at all, really. So it hurts even more when he eventually is one. There's one last thing I really want to talk about. Lots of people have been speculating, if Usagi is a traitor, is he going to be like a sort of Doppio Diavolo-esque thing, especially with the King Crimson reference? Personally, I don't think so, because if it's going to be a Doppio Diavolo situation, he needs to have a partner. And I think this is what perfectly leads to Meryl May being the main bad of the story. Now, am I sold on this theory at all that Meryl May is going to be evil? No, but I do think it's interesting, and I think it works especially well because Usagi's ability is dependent on someone else partnering with him, as we see in his first ever utilization of Mate Kudasai. So, yeah, lot to talk about. Although the part is only 5 chapters deep, I love that people are able to come up with ideas about how things can really last in the long term. I think it's interesting to see if people make these predictions and if they get more evidence as the part goes on, if they're proven right sooner rather than later, or it's a super long cooking theory that is able to really grow as the part continues. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Are there any theories that you have in particular? Let me know down below. And with that, that's going to be me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and have a good one.